Hey, Fitzy here, back at the game, another one. Yeah, I'm into it. Time to get started on the trunk. What do you think? Stick around. Let's get back on Crusty. Now, it's a new year. I hope everybody had a good New Year's and a Merry Christmas to everybody. I think it's time I get the metal work finished on this car. I want to stay on this now and get everything done. I have a list of things that got to get done, and then the main shell of this car will have all the metal work done. In the last video on this one here, I finished up this outer wheel tub and everything over here, and then I went ahead and I made up this section down here, okay? And I got that all done. I didn't want to bore you because you can see the lighting is not great. I went ahead and finished the other side. As you can see, I got it all done. It's done the exact same way. Everything was basically a piece on the bottom side and then capped the top of it, trimmed off the end of it. Built it the exact same way I built the other one. So if you had never saw the last video and you want to know how I made this here, you'll see it in the last video because I turned around and I built that side there. So it's the exact same process. I just found it tedious getting in that area there and trying to take video and stuff like that. It was hard to do, so I said I'll just go ahead and get that done. It's been annoying me all during Christmas, so I got it done. I sat down and made a list, okay, of all the work that got to be done, okay? The dash. I got to weld these corners in. They're upstairs somewhere, I think. I should still have them because I don't throw anything out. And I got to close this section in here around the dash so the dash pad can fit up to it and whatnot, because after fitting the dash to it, I just got to weld these sections back in again and finish them off. Spring mounts. Back in the car here, you can see I got these spring mounts made up. I made these up when I was designing the car, and now that I've gotten farther in the car, after realizing a few things, and I don't need all this up here. It'd be good if I was really getting into heavy adjustments, but the problem I got is it's just going to make a nightmare for trying to do the trunk floor and the gas tank and all that type of stuff, and I just assume have all this sealed off from the outside of the car. So I'm going to cut these off, but the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to drill through the frame rail right here and bolt them on, right? So I got to put the rear end, everything back in the car, make sure these are in the position where I want. They should be about 3/4 of the way back on the spring, and they're in the same distance and they're on the angle they should be on, and that way I'll turn around and mark them, and I'll drill these holes out here so that I can actually bolt it right through the rail, and then I can cut off the tops of these here. Gas tank, the mounting of it. It's kind of hard to really get into that for the simple fact I haven't got the tank here with me. It's upstairs, but I got to cut this out. I got to position the tank. I don't know how long I'm going to have it, how far forward I'm going to have it, all that type of stuff, so I got to figure all that out. The filler neck comes in throughout here, and I want to incorporate that into, it is a fuel cell that I got that takes a fuel pump in it, but I want to put a corner bung on it so I can actually fill it from outside the car from the original filler hole right here, okay? So I got to figure that out and figure out where that's going to get that mounted. Rear package tray, close in. This is what I call the rear package tray. Where this is going to be a drag race car, and you're going to have a battery in the trunk, and your fuel tank is here in the trunk. This has to be closed off from the driver's compartment. So all these holes here got to be closed in. So I got to make up pieces, weld them in here. Across the back here, I got to drop this down, weld this along here, along the wheel tubs, and seal off this section from the driver's compartment. So all that got to be done. Fuse box mount and computer mount. Here in the front of the car, I got the firewall. Now, I don't want to go drilling the holes and everything in the firewall here. I'm planning on having the body of the car, the lights, the brakes, the horn, that type of stuff on a fuse box. So that is separate. Now, all the engine and all that, it'll be run off a computer that'll be mounted over on this side here. I have a Terminator X going in this car, and so I want a place to mount it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to build platforms that'll weld on. I think I've done them before on other projects. I haven't got them done here anywhere. But I want to build them up so I can actually drill holes in something and screw it on so I don't have holes coming out through the firewall. That's what I'm going to do. I want to build something over here for the small fuse box for the car, and I want to build something big over here that I can mount stuff to, and I can drill holes in it anyhow I want, and I haven't got to worry about the firewall being full of holes, right? I skipped over this one up here, trunk drop-offs. That's the same as this down here, trunk floor. I'll put two of them together, but I got two of them up here. What I mean by trunk drop-offs, a lot of guys build these Pro Street cars and they just go straight out, okay? Right out to the wheel well, okay? I don't like that. I want to have this the way it was originally done, with a pocket in the side of it. So I've got a trunk drop off that welds on down through here, along the bottom of the quarter here, and comes up along here, and is open down inside that pocket, and then the floor will come across this way here. Same with the trunk floor here. All this will be done. Now this will be built in some sort of box, depending on how I mount the gas tank around that there. I haven't figured that out. And over here, I'm going to do the same thing, but over here the battery's going. So I got to reinforce this section over here some way, but I just don't want to go putting angle iron and stuff like that and welding onto it. I'm going to do it with sheet metal and just build a frame for underneath the box, so that when you put the battery box in there, it gives it lots of strength for the battery box to hold the weight of the battery. So that's the floors, and that's that trunk drop-offs. So that's basically the list of stuff I got to get done so I can actually get this car finished metalwork. My plans with this is, what you see here now, I want to get all the metalwork done, and I want to get all the bodywork done, and I want to get it primed, and I want to get it painted. Just this main section here. I want to paint all the outside of it. What color? It's all going white, okay? I want it white. I don't want this car loud. I'm just trying to tone it down. It's going to be white with satin black offsets on it. That's what's going to be on it. All the floors, all that'll have to be painted. All the wheel wells, all that there had to be seam sealed up and everything. But in order for me to do that, I want to get all the body work and everything done, get this primed, get it ready for paint before I do anything else. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to paint all inside first or paint the body. I think it'd be a lot easier to paint the body, and then I can tape it up and then paint everything else, because I would like to paint all the bottom of the car, inside the car, the whole 9 yards. The reason why I'm saying all that is because I want to be able to start to put this car together. I don't want to have to do this car and say, let's get it all running, put the engine in it and do it, and the firewall's half done, the bodywork's half done, then I'm up trying to overspray on all the wiring and whatnot, right? So I want to get the main shell finished, and I want to get it primed and painted, and I can do things like the doors and the trunk lid. I can do all that separate in another piece. But that way the main shell is done, and I can start putting this thing together for the final time so I can get it running. But we can't do that yet. We got to get started on this here now. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn around and start back here. I want to get the trunk section, all this back here done. So I want to get these spring mounts all straightened away. But first thing I got to do is I must put the rear end and everything back in the car, so I can actually make sure that everything is measured up right, so I can actually drill out these sections here. So I'm going to go ahead now, I'm not going to bore you with that, and get this rear end banged back in. Well, I got all that back together. Got all the rear end back in it, springs, I got that all set up. So this is what I'm going to be at here now. You can see I have made these brackets up here. I made all these myself. These were what they call sliders on the bottom side of it. I made up these brackets so there's lots of adjustment on, so I can raise or lower, because I wasn't sure where the rear end and everything was going in this car. Now that I've got everything positioned and everything put in the car, and I'm sizing up tires and body fitment and all that type of stuff, I'm starting to think about, I don't need all this adjustment, okay? I was hoping to keep it or whatever, but the problem with it is this protrudes up into the trunk, and I want to have a flat floor in this, well, or just all this closed in. I don't want to have nothing open to the elements out the back. The biggest thing with this here is trying to avoid getting too much smoke in the car from doing burnouts and stuff like that. So I'm here now, and what I got done, I just got to clamp down above the frame rail. My plan is here now is I'm going to cut these off below the frame rail, just below it there, just cut it off. I still have 2 adjustments that I can actually lower this down, so I'm going to set it up so I can probably have 1 adjustment on it, which will be fine. And if I need any more, I'll have to weld something up for that, right? But these will bolt in is what it is. Now these are sliders. If you don't know what sliders are, these are for leaf springs. If you watch the bolt slides back and forth. That's the eye on the spring. That's instead of a shackle. Now the key with these are here, to set them up for drag racing, you want about 3/4 of the way back on the slider, so that when the car launches, this will move forward, have lots of room, and then there's still room there for when you're riding, that it don't bottom out in the back of the spring. I'm pretty well set up here on both of these now. Pretty close. I just got to fine tune them and whatnot. Then what I'm going to do here now is down these holes here, I'm going to pick 2 spots, and I'm going to drill holes through the frame rails on either side, so I can put the nuts and bolts right through the frame rail there. And same with this side here, and right through the frame rail here. Once I get that done, I can mark these here upper sections here and just cut them off. So I sat down here and I measured from the back of the frame rail to the shackle itself there. And same with over on this side here, have both of them equal. Then what I went and did is I went and measured up here on the floor, right there with the 2 frame rails or 2. I measured the angle that the car was on, which was roughly about 1 degree facing forward, okay? These here had to be set up on 5 degrees. So I got them on set up there now. Pretty cool. Pretty good there. Pretty close there now. That's pretty well 6 degrees there, okay? And the other one's the same way when I put the angle thing on there as well. They have to be angled down. I made them plates pretty well so they're 90 degrees. And the 5 degrees is already in them, so all I had to do was square them up. So it wasn't that hard. Now that I got them positioned, there's where I want to have them. I'm going to sit down and drill the holes now, to drill them out so I can bolt them on. So I got them all drilled out. What you saw me doing there is I turned around and I had a 7/16 drill bit, and I turned around and just ran it through because that's what all them there drill with. And I used that as like a center punch, and I marked the rail. And I just find that you could have tried to push it through the 7/16 drill bit. You'd be there all day trying to push it through. I likes doing a 1/8 bit and then bringing it up in bits. It just makes life a lot easier. It's not so hard on the drills. So what I did there is I turned around and I marked it, like a center punched it using the 7/16 drill bit. Then I ran a 1/8 drill bit through it. Then I ran the step build bit through it to bring it up. And then I ran the 7/16 bit through it. And I've done that for all 4 of them. And I got them all done there now. And they're all bolted in. So now that's the positions for that. That's a bolted in unit. I got them staggered on that there because right now if I want to lower this down, I can use this hole here and I can use this hole here. The problem being is the way these holes are staggered, I got to cut through the middle of this hole here, so I couldn't use that hole. So I do have one adjustment on them. If I want to raise them up a bit or whatnot, I can raise the back of the car 1 inch by raising them up. But what I got to do now is I'm going to mark these here on the rail and cut them off. Got the car all supported on jack stands here, and I got the weight taken off the spring, and I got this one removed. I'm going to cut that one and put it back in first. You can see the holes drilled through the frame rails. I'll get that one cut. Here you can see the way it's going to be cut off because these holes are staggered, okay? Like if you hold this up straight this way here, that don't sit level. That's 5 degrees, okay? For that to be like that. And the distance from here to here is different. So this is the way it's going to have to be cut for. This is the top of the rail that's flat, okay? And like if you look down, that hole is in the middle of this one here. That hole's in the middle of this one here. So I got to cut it in half, so I got to do so. I'm going to go ahead now and get that all cut off. And there you have it. Now it's nice and flush, flat on the floor there now. I'm gonna put the floor in there. That'll be strong enough for that. I got everything bolted in. Get the other side done now. Voila! There's the second one done. Now that I got both of them done, as you can see now, I can build the floors now flat to that. What I'm at over here now is I've been sizing things up. When I talked about the trunk drop-offs, this is what I'm talking about. There's a piece of metal that's going to go right here like this here. It's going to weld down through here, weld down along here, come up the back here, okay? And it's going to come up this way here and tip over on the top. And that's what the trunk floor will weld to over here on this side here, okay? And so what I got to do now is build these trunk drop-offs. A lot of times fellas builds these cars, it just goes out to the quarter panel. Okay, I never like that. It just, when you open up the trunk, it just looks odd in the corner. To me, I've always been hung up on like a factory appearance type thing. And I've always liked the way factory cars were built, especially like, you know, using spot welds, all that type stuff. So it just looks a lot tidier when you just follow the factory specs of the way cars were built. And when it's all said and done, it almost gives you that factory appearance look to it, right? So what I got to do now is I got to figure out a piece of metal that'll go from here to here. And from here to here. I got to mark this out. I got to come over here and put a straight edge here and mark the rail here. And then up back here, I'm pretty sure I know I got to follow this belt line right here. There's a belt line on the back of the car that's even with the frame rail. So I got to go from there. And then I got to start fitting it in there so I can actually put a lip on this end here so it can be welded onto the back of the panel here. And then I'll just turn around and leave it long enough so I can fold that after the fact, right? So that's the next thing now. Let's start building that. So I'm here sizing things up. I went ahead and I jacked the car up and got it up a bit higher, took the wheels off it because they're going to be in the way and I don't want to go burning up the new tires. Sizing up this panel here now. Usually I'll just cut out a piece of steel and I'll just start trimming it to fit, I'm looking at this here now and sizing up the way the top is wider than the bottom. The bottom is narrow, the top is wider, and there's a curvature on the back side here that I got to take in consideration. And my heights and, you know, all that type of stuff. So, you brace yourselves. This is what I'm going to do. I went out and bought template cardboard. You can pick this stuff up at your, your craft store. I get this at our dollar store here. I get 2 pieces for $1.50 or something. So, I prefer this stuff. It's half rigid and, taking regular cardboard boxes and stuff like that, trying to make good templates out of it, I find this stuff good. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a template of the trunk drop off. That way I can actually get the nice curvature on the back side. So let's get started on that. So I took a rough measurement and I just turned the paper sideways and cut it off. It's 22. I only need about 18. That's fine. I got my height here figured out. What I'm going to do here now, because this back section is so tricky to do, it's kind of hard to try to fit a large piece of cardboard and constantly try to fit in there and get the back of it. I'm going to concentrate on the back side. I'm going to take this here now and just randomly cut it off. I'll tape it back together later on. That way I can concentrate on getting this back corner fitting nice. And when I get that fitting nice, then I can just bring this over and put it wherever it got to go to fit onto that section there, run a few strips of tape. It's a lot easier to do it that way. I'm not concerned about the bottom. I'm not concerned about the front side right now. All I'm concerned about is getting that curvature right in the back side. I'm within the ballpark there now. I'm going to trim that up so it fits a little bit better. So I trimmed it up. I got that fitting a lot better there now. I'm happy with that. Let's make the front one now. Next thing I got done is I got a straight edge laid across here. And I got it marked out here where the actual height of it's going to be at. So I got that marked there, so I know that my panel is going to have a 90-degree bend there. That will be my top edge, so that'll come back through here. So I got that marked. I can make that template up now. What I intend to do here now is I got it clamped in place. I'm going to trim it off there, mark it on the outside, mark it on the bottom, trim it all up there. Make sure that I got a lot up on top here, so that way I can actually find 2 points to put a straight edge across. And I'll get that turned around and marked and trimmed up and fitting in place. You can see it can be tricky. This piece of paper is on this angle here. All I was worried about was this here and getting everything to fit. So better just to make the front section, make the back section, and join two of them together. Makes life a lot easier. I'll trim all this up here now and get this set up. I marked the top edge here and the top edge back here, and I'll just mark a straight line across there and cut it off, because that will be my bend. I'll have to add whatever I intend to have up top right there onto the panel. I just want to have it so that I got the actual panel made for it. So I got it marked here, I got to trim that off, and then I can cut it across here. I'm going to tape this down along the back here now to give that more strength. So I got it all trimmed up, and I got it taped up, ready to go. I test fitted the car. I'm happy with it too. I have it cut off. I had to go in and remark it again on the top side here, because I made some changes down here on the bottom and fine-tuned it a little bit more, and I had to raise this side up a bit. This is where the bend is going to be at, so I got to add another inch or so to that there. I went and what else did I do? Yeah, I turned around and I test fitted on the passenger side. There's a little slight difference in the two of them. All this is the same coming down through here. It's a little tiny bit wider here, and it needs to come up a little tiny bit higher here. Nothing to worry about. I can use this as my template to do it. I just got to add a little bit to the either end of it, right? But I'm happy with how close it is, considering the left and the right. And it was all done freehand. What I got to do now is I got to transfer this over onto a piece of metal and get it cut out. There it is. Got it all fitting in place on this side here now. I'm happy with that too. I got a bunch of bead rolling to do, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and build the other one as well. So I got the other one made. Now after going ahead and after marking where I want to put the bend to, the bend over the top, because what I want to do a bunch of bead rolling on these first before I actually do anything. I got to build a lip on this end here so I can actually spot weld it on the back side here. And then it's just going to be spot welded down along here and up along here, and that'll be it. So what I want to do is I got to take these out now. I got both of them marked right here, and I'm going to design some sort of little relief or something in this here. I think I'm just going to follow the design that I got on this car already, just to square it off units, just make them smaller as I'm going back through. I'll see when I takes it out. I'm just trying to do this here is just to give it just something so when you look up underneath the car, it actually looks like a factory style piece. So I'm going to pop them out and get the bead roller out and start getting the bead rolls in them. So here's what I got done. Any precision here? No, I just guesstimated at one, and then I just duplicated it over onto the other one is all I did. What I got done here, I got the beads going down here to the same beads I've used in the floors and the rest of the car. And I looked online, looked at a couple of trunk drop-offs, and I noticed a lot of them got these in it, so I said, okay, I'll just stick with that. That way I haven't got to change the dies on the bead roller. Now, I got them done to the lengths. I got them squared off on the bottom, and they goes up on an angle here, so they get shorter as they goes to the back, okay? I got 3 per side. Now, up here, this is where the trick is going to be. I'm going to do these first, and then I got to do a step bead in here. The step bead I want the panel to fall into. Now, this is what I came up with. It made up as this here, okay? This is what I'm looking to accomplish on the top edge. So when you look in the trunk, you'll see your panel come out, and you have this little raised lip here. So I had to figure out how much of that, there's my bend, but this is the height of my trunk floor. So I want to have the bend and all that going together. Now you can see all I did first is I ran a bead like this through it first, and then I put that into the brake and bent it up, and this is how I come up with this here. And you can see roughly the amount of bend I got in it and whatnot, right? So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to bead these up and have all them done. So all I got to do is put one bend in this here. Once I get to the bend putting this here and these all done, then I can actually make this piece to go back here. I got to keep the panel flat, so I'm going to run through the bead roller for now, and I'm going to bead all this up. I have the bead roller all set up with a simple little step die. All I'm doing here is I'm dropping one side of the bead at a time, and then I flip it around and do the other side. I use the lowest part of the upper wheel that touches the metal as my start and stop point. To maintain the same depth each time, I use the crank and return it to the same position each time. I can feel the pressure coming on the actual die, and then I return it to the outwards position each time I actually make the bead. I bead roll 4 sides of the actual drop in the panel. This way it gets a nice, clean, crisp edge. My brain is on overload here, trying to figure out what way I gotta make the upper bead before I make the bend, the 90-degree bend at the top. I wasn't 100% sure what way I had to run the metal through the actual bead roller. So I'm here sizing things up, trying to figure out, make sure I make this bead right. Finally, I feel confident enough that I think I had this right. A simple little 90-degree bend, and voila, a trunk drop off. Now, first mistake I made was I should have bead rolled these here. I should have stretched these a bit first with the English wheel before I actually done it. Now, it's only a small panel, so I should be able to get away with it when I clamps it in place, because it's going to be welded all around this area here, so it should be fine. In larger panels, it would have been a nightmare, but I'm lucky that I done it this way. Hopefully I got this done right, but here's what I'm talking about now. See that nice little bead going along there? So now I got a little edge for to lay it on, and there's lots of strength in that edge, upper edge here. So I'm going to go over and do a quick test fit on that and see what it looks like. That's what it looks like is in place there now. As you can see now, this here, it's flat on the frame rail, and it goes across there and lays flat on that there. So that's my lip there. You can see there's a little raised edge on it. Looks nice. What I got to do now, next thing I do now is I'm going to make a piece to go in here that's going to weld onto this here. And then I'm going to have a sort of plug weld on here. Now, some people would have just wearing beads down here. I don't like that. I want to have everything plug welded. I don't want to have no seams or anything like that. I want to have it all looking that way. So that'll be plug welded down through here, along here, and up there, and it'll be done. That'll be it. Clean up plug welds, and it'll be like permanently part of it. Now, there's lots of strength to that there. This little roll lip adds to the actual strength of it all. So I got a little spot there to weld to. I got strength there. I got strength there. What more can you ask for? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and make the other one before it starts doing these pieces here, so that way I can get the bead rolling done. So I got the second one made, and I talked about this before. You can see that this here is warped up a bit. It's a small panel. It's got to be clamped on 3 sides, so when I get that in, that should be strong, and it should be an issue. I should be able to push that out of it. But if that was a larger panel, it would have been a nightmare. Reason for this is because when you're bead rolling this stuff here, it has to pull the metal from somewhere. And the problem being is that it ends up pulling it and warping it up. Usually what you end up doing first is you got to run these through like an English wheel and stretch these areas here where you're doing your beads. And that way when you bead this here, this should come out flat. But I'm fine with it now. Both of them are the same way. This one here is this way. So I got that done. Now that I got them all straight away, after doing a test fit on, they still got to be fine-tuned to fit in place. What I got to do now is I got to put a lip down along the bottom here. I cut off 2 random pieces here that I got kicking around. And they're going to go like that. Now, what I'm going to do first, though, is because I don't think these are around a 90 degree. I think these are laid back a small bit. So I'm going to go over and position these in the car. This one and this one for the other side. And I'm going to clamp them in place so that I can start test fitting that piece again. Now, I got to shave off so much of the back end of it here. You see what I did? I put a marker. And I marked about 1/8 of an inch of it all the way around. I'm going to use that as a guideline. So when I grind it back, I got to grind it back the thickness of the metal. Okay? So when I want this metal to rest up against it this way here, but I want to fit it in the car. Right now, this is not going to fit because this section here is too long on the back. So I'll take the grinder now, just grind this down, test fit it, grind it down, test fit it till I'm happy with it. Well, after some trimming and fitting and trimming and fitting and trimming and fitting, and 7 clamps later, I got this all figured out here now. You can see the little strip in there now where I got it run up down, it's clamped down there. I'm going to weld that in there. Okay. I had to make sure the measurement from here to the frame rail was equal. It was 11 inches. I had to make sure that this was the same height as the frame rail. This was the same height as the frame rail. So this is what I got done here now. So that's ready to weld up. So I'm going to go in now and get that welded up in there. So I got tack weld in place and I took it off. You can see now how rugged that looks. Well, this is the thing here. Look, if you look at that there, that's not a straight line. Like if that was there, you're looking across that the ends have a slight angle. So I got that there now. I'm going to turn around and weld all it up. Clean all this off here. And I'll have that piece done. So I got it all grinded up. Welded up, cleaned up. All I did with that is I used a grinding stone, okay, and then I used a Dremel tool and cleaned up the corners. So all I done with that there, and I dressed it up, then I cleaned it up with a 24. I went ahead then and I went and put the holes in it for the spot welds. These ones here, people have asked about these spot weld holes. This tool here will punch, that got a hole in it. That will punch a hole. It looks to be about a 5/16 hole, okay? What I did there is I done these ends here 5/16. Down on the bottom, I only got a very narrow lip on the quarter panel, and so I had to downsize it. So I did that with a step bit, and I only done them 1/4, okay? But the 1/4 5/16, that's usually the size of the plug well holes when you're doing this type of work, okay? I got that set up. I just got to grind the bottom section here and back here on the car, and I can install this. So I got it all clamped in place now, all ready to be welded in. I played around with the roller, goes out to the edge of that there. Right. Up here it does the same thing. Goes out, touches out there as well. So the distance from here to here, up and here to here is the same. Okay, so that's parallel down through there. Just double check that. Should be 11 inches to the inside. Yeah, 11 inches. Yeah. So I got that all there in place now. I'm just going to go ahead and weld that in. Now it's kind of hard for me to show myself welding all this stuff in, so I'm just going to go ahead and get it done. These are tangly spots to get into, so I'm going to show you as much as I possibly can. But when it comes to all this now, I'm just going to go ahead and get that all welded up. So I got that all grinded up and dressed up. All that's finished up. Got a nice little drop off there now. Nice little edge there now for the panel to rest on. Nice and solid. I got that one done, so I went ahead and I done the other side. I wasn't going to bore you with that. More of the same. It was the exact same method. I had to turn around, clamp the piece on here, fit it over, measure it from here to here, tack weld it on, take it off, weld it up, grind it, trim it off on the inside. Put some plug well holes and all that there, set it in place, plug well it in place, grind it all up. Finished. So now I got the 2 trunk drop-offs done. The next thing in my arsenal is going to be the closing these floor sections. This side here shouldn't be too bad. There's nothing planned on going over here, so I'm just going to put a flat floor in here with some beads in it. Over here, on the other hand, is a bit different. Over here, I'm going to be mounting a battery. So I want to put some reinforcement somehow in the floor. Now, the easiest thing to do, get a square stock, come out like that, or a bit of angle iron like that. That'd be the easiest thing to do with that. But me, no, I got to make it right fancy. So I got some ideas for that. But in saying all that, I think I'm going to leave this one here because I got a lot done. We'll have a look at the list now. So I got spring mount done. Trunk drop-offs ×2. Got them done. Next thing on the agenda now is going to be trunk floor, the left and the right. Yeah, that's going to be the next thing on the agenda. This down here, get that all done. So that's pretty good for that. Don't seem like much, but there's each job is a pretty tedious job. Trying to get a bunch of everything involves a bunch of welding, so and fitting, and you know, making sure everything fits nice, and test fitting and grinding and fitting and test fitting and grinding and fitting. You know, it's the drill. But I got all this done here now, so I'm pleased with that there. I'm happy with everything's coming out here. They looks the part they do. I'm happy with them. There's an awful lot of strength given back to this quarter panel now down the bottom side. You can see now I'm going to have to clean off, grind the welds. That's the plug welds here, to grind all that off there. And then coming up across here, that'll all have to be cleaned off or spot welded on. Same to the side over here. You can see all that down through there. And this down along here. That'll all have to be looked after. But I think that's a nice one to get started back on this again. I'm going to try to see if I can get this glued up here now and get a bunch of work done on this here. So I'm going to jump right back on this here. But for now, I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips are good. Until next time.